Thank you. The Student Athlete Advisory Council is always looking to give back to the community. Every year, a number of our Fordham athletic students participate in countless hours of community service. Today, we have with us Mr. Jason Braase. He is here on the behalf of the Wounded Warrior Project. Jason Braase enjoyed an active childhood in Idaho, often traveling to nearby ski resorts and camping destinations with his family. He joined the Army National Guard in September 2001, and his life as active duty Army took him through nearly a dozen states, culminating with his deployment to Iraq in 2004. A year into his service overseas, he suffered the fury of an IED blast that sent shrapnel through his right leg just below the knee. After 13 surgeries, with numerous doctors telling him he'd never walk again, today he walks, swims, and mountain bikes with little pain. He says he'll never forget the day in the hospital when he received a backpack from the Wounded Warrior Project and a new chapter of his life began. Here to tell you all about it, please help me welcome Mr. Jason Braase.
Thank you seriously so much for that warm welcome. I've spent a lot of time thinking, and I've added up everything in my life, and I can honestly tell you, hands down, freedom is why I stand here before you today. To uphold our nation's freedom is why I rose my left hand on a Bible and swore in to the Army. It happened to be on September 7th, 2001. Freedom was the whole purpose of us going to Iraq, to free these people that were under the tyranny of these horrible, horrible people. Freedom is also what Wounded Warrior Project was able to give back to me when I came home broken and abused. I can tell you in September of 2001, this daunting thought of going to war was on my mind as my orders into the military actually dated that fateful day for us, 11 September. And let me tell you, it was a pretty clear sign that I had made the right choice, that my country needed me. And even as daunting as that thought was, seriously, I had made one right choice. That was to be on our nation's main battle tank, the M1A1 Abrams. Oh boy, I left for basic training. I got to play around with this. I fell in love with that tank. Let me tell you, it has a 1,500 horsepower turbine engine, and it's capable of going 55 miles an hour. It weighs 70 tons and is unstoppable. I tell you this because I put it to the test. I ran clean through 2-foot trees, didn't even notice they were there. I jumped a canal once. I ran through mud that was 5-6 feet thick, and this tank ran like a boat, nice and smooth. The only thing that ever could stop it, actually, was when I ran into another tank. Now, on top of that, we have this hole. It takes 4 of us to operate it. There's multiple machine guns, as well as 120 millimeter smooth bore cannon. We can reach out and touch a target at a mile away, no problem, day or night. The rounds for it weigh 65 pounds, are completely combustible, and we fire a round that shoots a depleted uranium rod that's about 18 inches long, and it can pierce any armor on the planet. I knew for sure I was going to be okay. And I can actually even recall my mom before I left. She told me to never get out of that tank. I found myself leaving from Kirkuk into Iraq the day after Thanksgiving in 2004. Our convoy had 150 vehicles in it, and as we got up to speed, it stretched out over 10 miles long. Every convoy that had left before us had been hit pretty hard. It was just within miles of leaving the border. And we were pretty nervous, but with 25 tanks mixed in our convoy, as you can imagine, they really wanted nothing to do with us. We had an easy week-long transition to northern Baghdad. We secured an old Iraqi army base, put up a concrete wall all around it, and spent about 6 hours doing our own security for our base. We'd creep out at night, and we had all these mini traffic control points, and we'd try and provide overwatch for these points. And it was this time, January 2005, I had an amazing privilege of going around to all these ballot stations and collecting over 1 million ballots on my tank alone for that first Democratic election. A huge purpose, a huge reason why we were there. Our intel came down at this point that only 3% of the population was really against us. And this left 97% of those people being terrorized by the same people who hated us. And so we had to get off of our armored tanks and into their communities. We started to escort our leadership to their government buildings so that they could get plans in place for this rat's nest of an electrical grid, sewer system, road work, fresh food, and clean water. We'd take our doctors to their hospitals so that they could help out and train their doctors on how to be proficient. We'd routinely get intel and we'd go out and just cordon off entire neighborhoods. Put a vehicle every 50 yards, 8-man teams would line up on both sides of the streets, and we'd knock away. 97% of the time, they'd let us into their house, and we'd search it for any contraband, weapons, or explosives. 3% of the time, that door wouldn't open, and we'd go ahead and let ourselves in, put 2 rounds through the hinges and give it a little kick. And yeah, we caught terrorists, some pretty horrible people. But let me tell you, we also caught drug dealers. We made this horrible drug, one of the ingredients being the corrosion that builds on a battery. We also, time and time again, would rush in and we'd find grown men and children tied up in closets. Something I know you haven't seen on the media, but let me tell you, kidnapping ran rampant in Iraq. And oh boy, was it a privilege every single time to reunite these loved ones with their family members. I had loved my time in Iraq, and let me tell you, 97% of what we did was positive and impactful, trying to bring these people a better quality of life. Every single day I woke up, I'd put on this BDU uniform that united me with my brothers. I'd put on boots, knee pads, elbow pads, a helmet, a body armor on my back. The whole thing weighed 65 pounds in total, especially by the time you counted the 220 rounds for my M4, more than a dozen rounds for the 203 grenade launcher on that M4. Next to my brothers, let me tell you, we were headstrong, invincible. And we left the wire every single day focused on our mission at hand. One day it did come about, our Iraqi police officers in the city who we had been training had found a roadside bomb. It wasn't uncommon. We'd handled hundreds of them. Within minutes, we were up at our gate, met up with our explosive ordnance disposal unit, and we left, pedaled to the metal outside the wire in our Humvees. Dead center of the road. It's truly amazing just watching the traffic split and get out of our way. And if they didn't, we'd give them a little help. We rolled up on the scene, sent 2 vehicles to one side of this 2-lane highway. We stopped traffic and we kept 2 on the other side while our EOD team came in and would dismantle, defuse, sometimes just blow up these IEDs. It was a beautiful morning. Not a cloud in the sky, and it was really nice and cool. It was only about 95 degrees. I remember an hour or so went by, and then we got a regroup sign. Let's head back to base. We're all clear. I hopped in my vehicle and started cruising down the road. My 1 and 2 vehicles were on one side of this 2-lane road with a 10-foot dirt median in the middle. I was coming up on the right side. I herringboned my vehicle to one direction. The vehicle behind me herringbones the other. We established our sectors of fire and provide this little defensive zone. Grabbed my rifle, the invincible person I was. I got out of that rig. And I was met with this boom. And that beautiful blue sky just turned black. As a shockwave hit me, my ears were ringing. I turned around to see what was going on and put some weight on my right leg, which was just no longer there. And I fell to the ground with a thud. It honestly felt like I fell for 5 minutes, and the whole time I was thinking of my brothers, my team, my family. As all 20 of them were outside of their vehicles and within 20 yards of this bomb as it went off. But thankfully, things lined up just right that day, and it was a shape-charged IED. I parked right in front of it, so my Humvee took 99% of that blast. One rock, to the best of my knowledge, got underneath and hit me in my right leg just below my knee. Hit my squad leader in his left leg, so he got out the passenger side. Within seconds, we were being pulled back to safety by our team. My medic stripped off my body armor and put an IV in my arm. As the rest of my team surrounded me, all of their weapons pointing out, anticipating this all too common of an ambush. We must have looked so strong that day again, because not a round was fired. That explosion had been heard on base, and an ambulance was already on its way. They picked me up and shuffled me back. I remember those Humvee doors for this ambulance opening, and a sea of people, 50 people or more in between the Humvee and this green domed surgery tent, just like you've seen on MASH. You might be a little young. But they literally crowd-surfed me out on that stretcher, all the while saying things like, "You've done your job, warrior. You're going home, son. You're going to be fine. You're going home." And let me tell you, in the midst of all of that chaos, I grasped onto their voices and I allowed them to echo in my head for years, even still to this day. Now they took me in that surgery tent, laid me down on a cold metal steel table, and proceeded to cut my bloody uniform off of my body. I laid there butt naked with every cell in my brain screaming in pain as they put me out. And I didn't wake up for almost 5 days. In that time, I've been shuffled around, had a couple of surgeries, but I woke up on the plane ride from Germany to Walter Reed in D.C. It was that night my doctor came in and unbandaged this giant elephant leg that I had. He proceeded to stick 2 fingers through my knee and feel around. I was absolutely positive the invincible person that I was gone. That I would never ride a bike again. I'd never hike to the top of a mountain. I'd never swim or even properly walk down the aisle with my wife or run with my future children. Honestly, this life laid out in front of me and I wanted nothing to do with it. And thankfully, that very next morning, my beautiful blonde bombshell of a wife who I'd married just days before leaving for Iraq, she came walking in that room, and let me tell you, it just filled with love. And right along with her came this backpack from Wounded Warrior Project, and let me tell you, it contained the only shirt that I had to put on for months, which I was so happy about, because it's pretty hard to look sexy in a hospital gown. And it had a toothbrush and a CD player, but on it was this logo of one warrior being carried by another, and let me tell you, I instantly looked at that logo and knew it would replace the one that was cut off my body just days prior. Now, I really didn't have a clue of how much they would impact me, and neither did they, because at this time in 2005, there was only 5 employees of Wounded Warrior Project, and they were trying to provide these comfort needs for wounded veterans just like myself. A simple token, a physical form of the American public's appreciation. Since then, though, it's been a decade. It's been 12 years. I can tell you the doctors were able to piece my leg back together, 13 surgeries in total, and almost 3 years of physical rehab. That whole time that I was in physical rehab, I can tell you, though, all the focus was on my leg. All of the focus. Any question that was asked, how's your pain? How's your mobility? It wasn't until 3 years down the road when Wounded Warrior Project had about 100 employees, I finally found myself out on an event that they were hosting, and they had created a couple of programs in particular. I was out on an engagement once. It was just come together with a bunch of other warriors and go have a good time. Get out of your house. Get out of the bar. And that was the first time anyone asked me any questions relating to my head. How was I sleeping at night? How was I getting by? How was my road rage? How was my hyper-awareness? And believe it or not, at that time, for years, I was still scanning every single person's hand as they walked in the room. I was still having flashbacks at any given point that would send me downhill all day long, sometimes for weeks. I would go lock myself in my house. I didn't even understand what I was suffering with. I couldn't even begin to combat it. And it truly was my peer mentor, some of their staff, and especially my fellow brothers, my alumni of Wounded Warrior Project, that really did help me grasp and understand some of the things that I went through. They helped me identify what was triggering these bad memories, these bad flashbacks, and they helped develop coping mechanisms for each one of them. It's truly amazing. Now Wounded Warrior Project has over 550 employees. We have offices in 20 different states, and we're currently offering 20 cost-free programs and services to combat wounded veterans like myself. We have sent out a survey every year. Last year it came back 175 pages worth of content, and that it clearly identifies the gaps and the holes in the system, what they're suffering with, and we've developed one program after another to try and ease them and help them transition back into society with incredible success, let me tell you. And anything from helping them get their VA benefits to getting back to work. Our Amazing Warriors to Work program placed over 2,000 warriors last year into jobs that had an average income of $65,000. We have combat stress and recovery specialists helping these warriors overcome whatever mental issues they came home with. Physical health and wellness activities going on all across the country, helping these warriors adapt to their new body. Maybe it might be a missing limb, eyesight or hearing, or traumatic brain injury. We have everything I can tell you, though, is engagement focused. Getting these warriors together, focused on a common goal, getting them out in the public so that they can receive the love and respect that is absolutely vital to their recovery process. I can tell you this, it is vital. As I've been told thank you for my service easily 100,000 times. But not once has it ever gotten old. Not once have I ever taken it for granted. And because of all of this, you add it all up, let me tell you, I can now stand here today and say, I have no regrets. I would do it all over again. And on top of that, I feel fortunate that I have scars to show you. I truly do, as the majority of my brothers don't. And this damn leg, it stopped me from doing 10 things, but my head stopped me from doing thousands of things. And when it comes down to it, all that support and love, it really, truly has made a massive impact. And I stand here before you and I say thank you for supporting this organization as they become my new unit. They are my team that I'm still continuing to fight with. I thank you so much for supporting them, but I also beg you, I plead you, please, if you know of any warriors who have come home a little bit different, let them know how much you appreciate their sacrifices. Tell them welcome home. Tell them about Wounded Warrior Project and the other nonprofits that are out there to help assist them, as that we are not in competition with anything other than human suffering. And let me tell you, freedom has been worth it. And I hope you feel that way. I truly do. And if there's any of you out there in particular that feel like you want to give back or help out in any way, I'm actually here to help guide you in that path. We have a new program called Student Ambassadors, and that's to help give you the resources and the tools needed to help hold a fundraising event, a 5K or a silent auction or something like that. So please, if you have a minute, come find me afterwards if you're interested. But other than that, go ahead and continue to live your life to the fullest. Take advantage of every opportunity you can. Don't take for granted the sacrifices of so many men. Millions of men have helped to bring this freedom to us. I thank you so much, everyone.
On behalf of the Student Athlete Advisory Council and the Athletic Department, we would like to present you with this check for the Wounded Warrior Project. Thank you.
Awesome. Sweet.